All right. So let's get in on this. Let's start with Hassan Nasrallah, who is the leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are in part a proxy, almost franchisee of Iran. Soleimani would have been, the guy who would have probably coordinated some of their military activities in Hezbollah. And here he is. They seem to have basically come to some understanding, Iran and Hezbollah, and I imagine. And they also want to make sure, I think, that they are maintaining operational control over all of their the other proxy fighters on behalf of Iran. The United States has an advantage insofar as the only person that we have that's rogue is the president. And you don't have to worry about, theoretically, of other, pro-American forces freelancing. And Nasrallah wants to make sure that any proxies or subsidiaries of Hezbollah or associates of Hezbollah know that the plan is not to attack the American people, because that, and this is sophisticated. I mean, frankly, it's more sophisticated than what we just did. We will play video of millions of people. There was a funeral procession for Soleimani in Iran that apparently was 20 miles long.
Don't show this to Trump.
And
he will nuke this place if you
millions of
between
people.
This and his inauguration.
Millions of people. And from, I've never been to Iran. I haven't lived there. But from what I have read from reporters and Iranians is that this is not something that's manufactured. This is not a situation where it's like, everybody's got to come out for dear leader or you're in trouble with your neighbor. Iran doesn't work that way.
The military does not have that kind of turnout capacity, regardless.
And I mean, I'm only going by the reporting, but this is extraordinary.
Damn.
No, I mean, this guy was, just to be really clear, they opinion poll in Iran. They do actual opinion polling. Now, they do not poll the supreme leader's numbers. That's considered to be inappropriate. But they do conduct real polls on the president, and they polled Soleimani. Soleimani was
80 to 90%.
Universally, I don't actually think that there was maybe Eisenhower when he came back and before he became a partisan figure. I don't think we have people like that in the United States anymore.
Yeah, folks can go. We did one interview that we played during the show on Friday, but I did two others with different experts to get their perspectives on this. And universally, there was an understanding that Soleimani, in part because he wasn't part of the domestic oppression and repression in Iran, was very popular. But here is Nasrallah explaining and understanding this dynamic. We don't want to get on the wrong side of the American public, but we are willing to make those close to Trump pay a price. And here is Nasrallah. And we should say, I'm going to read the translations. Okay, so just, play this. Go back. Go out the beginning. When we are talking about this, of course, we don't mean all the American people. And I hope there is extreme clarity. We don't mean the American people. We don't mean American citizens. All across the region, there are American citizens, traders, media people, journalists, companies, engineers, and doctors. They cannot be touched. They cannot be touched. In fact, I am saying that any harm coming to U.S. citizens and civilians anywhere will only serve Trump's agenda, When we are talking about this, when we were talking about this. I mean, so there's a deeply sophisticated perspective on this. That unlike Trump, we understand that we don't want to be on the wrong side of the American people. I mean, all of those people, the millions upon millions of people marching, I mean, I think it's well over 10, 15, 20% of the population of the entire 80 million people in that country were participating in one funeral procession. Never mind what was happening in any particular regions.
And some of those are some of the same people who were out there protesting austerity fairly recently.
Not just austerity, all sorts of reformers.
So way to make Iran patriotic again.
Exactly. And but Nasrallah understands what Trump doesn't, which is we're not going to attack the American public. We're going to attack things that are going to hurt more the elites or the military infrastructure or whatever. And that way, we won't allow Trump to have the leverage in demonizing us.
Well, he also criticized the, I believe it was the Charlie Hebdo attacks years ago in France. I mean, they've had a very tactical clarity for a very long time that isn't how they operate. It's not smart relative to civilian populations. And also, it's the distillation of their contrast with ISIS, which Hezbollah has been another huge force in destroying.
And here is the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, the Ayatollah, basically saying the same thing, that we're very specific. Don't make a mistake. When we say death to America, we mean Trump, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo. Here we go. Here it is.
Details.
The U.S. authorities complain and ask, why do Iranians say death to America? Let me make something clear for U.S. leaders. Let me make something clear for U.S. leaders. Death to America means death to Trump, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo. It means death to American rulers. We have no problem with the American people. Death to America is about the rulers of America. And it's all about the group of people who are currently in charge.
I mean, that's kind of an Obama move, right? That's politically skillful.
We say that about countries when we invade them.
Yes, indeed.
Right, exactly.
But they say exactly the same thing.
We're not looking to harm the Iraqi people. This is about Saddam Hussein.
They just want to bring us freedom.
This is like actually true.
Yeah.
I would totally be open to some type of grand bargain.
Oh, yeah. That's better. That's better.
You know, if they want to take out the cultural site that is the White House, we promise we won't retaliate.
No.
No. I said grand bargain.
Okay.
The grand bargain is, and I think like it would not be surprising to me if a Trump property was attacked in some way. Now, I don't think they would do it if they thought there were people inside. But there's a lot of these things where the Trump people, sort of lie about how much has been sold off and in certain areas and what the occupancy rates are. So who knows? But what those two clips show is that you have the Iranians and granted, they are as devastating as a war would be to us. And depleting, it would be obviously more so to them. But, we saw how that worked out in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've just,
totally different level of devastation.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so they are being tactical about this. They are trying to prevent Donald Trump from making political hay out of this. And in some respects, they're being smarter about it than even Donald Trump's opposition in this country. Where you have people doing the Soleimani was, had blood on his hands, butt thing is basically saying, well, the premise of the killing was correct. We just didn't, know exactly like the real implications of it.
Just touch on, there is a problem that the rhetoric around these things is so childish. And I don't mean like go counter childish, like, yeah, go Soleimani. Like, I'm just talking talking about this like a grown up or whatever word you want to use in the proper sense. Like This guy ran like, I don't know what the correct analogy is, intelligence service / Green Berets. And he did paramilitary operations across the Middle East, sometimes in conjunction informally with us, sometimes very much at odds with us. And it's not like personal. It's certainly not analogous to something like Al-Qaeda. And it was obviously a catastrophically reckless and dangerous and absurd thing to do. And like the throat clearing is stupid and dangerous in and of itself, but also like you could have a conversation like, we would like to create a Middle East policy that disincentivizes these types of dynamics generally, which includes our role, the Israeli role, the Saudi role, and then also the Iranian role. But like talking about him in this like such a childish way only feeds the only mindset that could possibly lead to is Fox and Friends and Donald Trump. Well, it's childish. It's delusional.
It's worse than that, because what it does is it validates the predicate.
Well, right, exactly,
and
the whole propaganda around the predicate.
It changes what the central question of analysis is like, what is strategic about this? Where is the net benefit for the United States? I've heard no one say that from a sort of operations standpoint, that they're not going to find out of a country of 80 million people, they're not going to find someone who can replace Soleimani in terms of his role. It's all just whether he had it coming to him or not, which is an irrelevant question in the context of his position within the government of Iran, right? Like he is not a non-state actor like bin Laden was. We have mechanisms in which to retaliate against Iran, and those mechanisms, assassinating specific generals, particularly the most popular one maybe in the history of Iranian history, doesn't make any sense. But that is that. Now.